Hello my sweet friends, welcome back. Today I've decided that I want to do a 24-hour readathon. I haven't done one of these in so long and I just kind of miss it. I'm just like in the mood to do it, and I think I'm going to use the timer method this time. So that just means I'm going to start a 24-hour timer, but I'm going to start and stop it. It's only going to be going while I'm reading, which probably means that I'll be doing this 24-hour readathon over the next few days rather than in one 24-hour period. I definitely don't have a set TBR for this video. The only rule or guideline that I'm going to give myself for this 24-hour readathon is that I want to only be reading books that are on my physical TBR, and that is just to obviously help me get through my physical TBR, which you can see in the corner there. I think 24-hour readathons are one of the best ways to get through your physical TBR because you just read a lot in a short amount of time, and I also tend to lean towards shorter books or more fast-paced books during 24-hour readathons. So we'll see how that goes. In terms of my monthly TBR, I think I've read 3 out of the 6 books on my TBR, which is not bad but not great. The books that I still have left on my monthly TBR are The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson, which I don't know if I'm going to get to in this video because that's obviously a long book. We also have This Summer Will Be Different, which could be great for a 24-hour readathon, and we also have Snow Globe, which I've actually already started. I think I'm about 150 pages into it, so that will definitely, will hopefully be read in this video. But I guess we'll just see what I'm in the mood for, what I'll pick up. It's about 4 p.m. right now, so I don't know how much reading I'm gonna get done today, but we'll see. I've just finished my to-do list for the day, and I'm thinking I might settle in with an audiobook and some crochet. And right now, the audiobook that I'm listening to is Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson, and I'm loving it so far. I think I'm pretty early on still. Let's have a look. I've got it from my library, and I am 2 hours and 40 minutes into this, and I have 9 hours and 47 minutes left to go, and I am really enjoying this so far. Cozy fantasy, a very normal girl going on a little bit of an adventure. It feels very much like a fairy tale, the writing at least, and I'm loving it. So I might just sit down with my yarn and crochet while I listen to this. Okay, I also grabbed my physical copy of Tress. This is how far I am through it. Okay, let's make this timer. 24 hours starting now. I've only been reading for like 45 minutes, but I need to go downstairs and start making dinner. I'm up to chapter 24 in Tress of the Emerald Sea, and I just wanted to give you my thoughts so far because I guess I'm about a third of the way through. From what I've gathered, Tress of the Emerald Sea is a standalone, but it's part of the Cosmere. I haven't read enough of Brandon Sanderson's work to even know what that means or know how this is related, but from what I've gathered, you can read this at any time and you don't need to have any like background knowledge. Maybe it would be better. I'm not sure. I'm not the best person to ask, but this is a cozy fantasy standalone and we are following Tress. She is just a girl from a little town and she is going on this huge adventure because she is looking to rescue her love, I guess, which like I still can't tell if I'm supposed to be rooting for the love story because we barely even got to know the guy before he left, and then obviously now she is looking to rescue him, but I feel like I don't care enough about him to know whether I care about them actually being endgame or not. I'm wondering if it's maybe more of like a, oh, I went on this adventure to find my one true love and then ended up finding myself along the way and realizing all of these great things about myself rather than caring as much about this like love story, but I could be wrong. I don't know. But from what I've heard, a lot of this book takes place on the sea, on boats, hence Tress of the Emerald Sea. But I'm just really liking it so far. It's a bit unusual, but I feel like the main vibe I'm getting from this is just that it's a silly, goofy time. Like it's just not meant to be that deep. It's very ironic. There's a lot of like very like subtle humor. There's a lot of just humor surrounding people just being dumb, which is really funny to me. I think it is my humor, like just like little remarks and things. Also, Tress has made friends with an animal. She has like a little animal buddy, which feels very like Disney princess-esque, and I love it. And the little animal is so funny. I love his personality. Every time he's like talking, because he does talk, I'm just laughing because he just, I don't know, he gets on these little tangents and he rambles a lot, and then Tress will be like, okay, like back on track, and he'll be like, oh yeah, sorry, like Anyway, back to what I was saying. And it's just funny. It's just a silly, goofy time. We're also meeting just some really interesting characters who do some really interesting things. And overall, I think it's supposed to just be about like a very normal girl who ends up going on a very extraordinary adventure, I guess. Also, she loves cups, and I don't know why, but that is so funny to me. And also just so like, I'm just a girl vibes. I like cups, like I like collecting things. I like little knickknacks, because look on my bookshelves. I love a little thing. I love to collect little things because I'm just a girl, and if it's cute, I want it. And those are the vibes that Tress gives me. She loves collecting cups, and she'll just bring it up at the most random times, and I just think it's funny. I love it. I feel like I've heard really mixed things about this book. Like, a lot of people seem to really like it, and a lot of people seem to really not care too much for it. I'm not too sure why. Like, I can't remember people's actual thoughts. I will say as well, I feel like it's one of those books that you kind of want to read slowly, because the humor is quite like subtle, and it is just ingrained in the sentences. It's not like super funny things are happening, but it's just the way it's described is kind of a little bit silly. So if I was like reading this book in the sense of like just trying to like, oh my gosh, what happens next? And then what happens next? Like, if I was just reading it for the plot, I would be really missing the point, I think, because I think the point is just to be like a silly, goofy time, hence why there's not actually that much happening. Like, she hasn't done a whole lot. She's been on this ship for a while, basically scrubbing the deck. Like, that's all she's really been doing, apart from a couple little things, but I'm still really enjoying it. I think I love cozy fantasy. Like, it has no purpose almost, and I love it. Anyway, I think I'm gonna go downstairs and start cooking dinner. I might continue to listen to this because I can. I'm just cooking, so I guess I'll go do that. Audiobook back on. It's a few hours later now. It is 8:14 and the timer is at 21:20. So what does that even mean? 2 hours 40 I've done. I am now at page 233. I'm still really liking this. I will say the last little chunk I've been a little bit more disinterested than I have been throughout the rest of it, but overall I'm still really enjoying it. Another thing that I think is so funny, I don't know why I think it's so funny, the side characters that aren't very important are all called Doug. Like, they all have the same name. They're just all called Doug. So if they're like, oh, we need to go tell Doug, it just means they're gonna tell a random side character that piece of information, and they use it as a collective term as well. Like, oh, we gotta go get the Dougs, meaning the rest of the crew on the ship that don't have any sort of important role, which I don't know why that's so funny, but like, oh, there are the Dougs, or like, oh, what are the Dougs up to? Like, it's just so silly goofy and I love it. But I'm going to head to bed. I think I'm gonna keep reading Snow Globe instead. Ideally, I would love to read for quite a while. I mean, if I can get an hour and 20 done tonight, that would be gorgeous, just to be at the 20-hour mark, like just for satisfaction purposes. I'd love to get at least an hour done, but I'll probably update you tomorrow. Good night. I'm having a bit of a slow morning this morning because it is so cold that I just want to sit on the couch with my blanket. I would have normally already been on my morning walk, but I think I'm going to try and wait till it warms up a little bit. Last night, I screenshotted what I got up to on the timer. I got up to 20 hours and 21 minutes. So I almost got to that like 4-hour mark, the 20-hour mark, I guess, but I didn't quite get there. I was like falling asleep, and you know when you're like falling asleep reading and you just know that you're not actually comprehending what you're reading? That was the point I got to last night, so I thought I would give it a break. But I'm gonna sit and do some more reading this morning. Last night I didn't read any more of Tress. I got up to part 2 chapter 2 because there was also part 2 chapter 1, which is page 203, so I'm a little over halfway through this book. A little summary or like synopsis of this one. This, I feel like the closest thing I could compare it to is The Truman Show. It's not exactly the same, but imagine the dome kind of situation in The Truman Show is the snow globe. So this is a dystopian book. It's set in the future where the world has turned like ice cold. I don't really understand why, but for whatever reason, the world is just absolutely freezing, and most people live in this freezing cold world, and they have to work in like power plants to keep the heat on, and it's all very like dreary and sad, except for the snow globe. And the snow globe is this almost slice of paradise situation, which is this big dome that houses this like city, I guess, and inside this dome, inside the snow globe, it is sunny and beautiful and life is perfect. And the only way you can live in the snow globe is if you're basically like a celebrity of this world, and if you live in the snow globe, you are broadcast to the rest of the world. So you are an actor. They call them actors, but it's also really like reality TV, because these people's lives are just like filmed. It's not necessarily like they are acting, they're just being filmed. It's like Love Island vibes. Like they just chuck a whole bunch of people in there and they film what happens, and they just hope for some interesting things. And of course, like interesting things happen because that's just what happens. Anyway, our main character in this book is a girl who is just like a normal girl. She works at the power plant, she lives with her family, she lives in like the freezing cold, but she gets picked up by a director one day and is like, I'm gonna take you to live in the snow globe, and you are going to basically steal the identity of one of the actor girls who has passed away. And we don't want her to have passed away because this is so crazy, but like her show had really good ratings, everyone loved her, and if they find out that she died, they will be really devastated, and we want to keep her story going. And you just happen to look exactly like her. You're basically her doppelganger. You sound exactly like her. So we're just going to take you from the normal world and we're going to slot you in to this girl's life, and you're just going to literally live her life. You're going to live in her family home with her mom and her aunts and her grandma and everything. So now obviously our main character has taken over the life of this other girl. That concept sounded so intriguing to me. I heard Carrie Can Read talk about it, and I was like, that sounds fascinating. Like I want to know what's going to happen, what this story is going to be about. And I don't even think that I've given you any spoilers, because all of that is literally on the back of the book, and it happens in the first part of the book. But in saying that, that is like such a detailed explanation, and it is only like the first tiny part of the book. And I don't know how I feel about it. At the start, I was so invested because I was like, this is fascinating, this is so unique, I've never read anything like it, and I really want to just like see where this story will go. But I feel like the more I read, the more I'm just like, this is trying to do too much. So this book is YA, by the way, and it is like 370 pages, I think, and the text is like it's like YA, so like usually YA text or like font is a little bit bigger, but it's still pretty short, you know, like in the grand scheme of things, this is like a pretty short book, and so much is going on, but like not really, in my opinion, in a good way. It feels like it's a little bit messy, and it feels like the author has tried to put too much in the first, I'm only up to 200 pages, so like the first 200 pages of this book, it's hard to follow everything that's going on because there's just so much, because obviously you're trying to follow this girl as she has just taken this other girl's place, and you as a reader are trying to understand like who's who and who's related to who and what relationship they're supposed to have. But also our main character is confused about some things, which means you as the reader are confused about some things. It's just confusing to read about, and I'm so lost because there's also like magical elements going on. There's this like magical mirror situation, and I'm like, what is going on? And I just think this book is trying to do too much for what it is. Like, if you want to do all of those things, make the book longer. Every time a character is mentioned, I'm like, who are they again? Like, is that her grandma? Is that her aunt? Is that like her best friend? Like, I'm so confused. And I feel like I've been reading it slowly too. So I don't know if it's a me problem. I don't know if it's a book problem. If you've read this, let me know, because I want to like this so badly, and I did really enjoy it at the start and I was so invested. But the further I read, the more lost I become, I think. And I also just found out that this is a duology. So I'm a bit overwhelmed. I don't know if I'm having fun. Concept is great. Execution, I'm not sure about. time I updated you on this book, I was like, there's too much going on. I'm a little bit confused about like what the main point of this is. We have just had such an interesting development, and I think it's hopefully going to make the plot a lot more intentional, or at least feel a lot more intentional, because what just happened was wild and I need to understand what's going on, because right now I'm like, what? I finished Tress and it was so good. I loved it. I really did. I thought it was so much fun. I think it lost me a little bit. Not even necessarily in the middle, maybe like a little past the middle. I don't know. I just got a little bit bored at one point, but then the end picked up again and I loved it. Obviously the whole story is about Tress trying to go and rescue her one true love, and I was really intrigued to see how that was going to happen and what the ending was going to be, because the romance was not like you didn't really get to see much of it at the beginning, and all of a sudden this girl is trying to look for this guy that you barely even got to meet or like spend much time with. So I wasn't really sure if I was gonna like care that much when it got to the point of actually rescuing him, but there was a little bit of a plot twist that I personally was not expecting. Looking back, I'm like, am I just silly that I didn't like put that together or didn't realize what was happening? But there was just a little something where something was revealed, someone was revealed, and I was like, no way. And I loved it. I had so much fun. I loved the ending. So I think overall I'm gonna give it a 4.5, because like I said, I did get a little bit bored in the middle, but apart from that, I thought it was so wonderful. I loved the writing. I loved the characters. I loved, I guess, the purpose behind it a little bit. Like there was so many hidden, I don't know if hidden is the right word, but like subtle, deeper meanings to things, and the way things were written were just absolutely beautiful, but it was also so silly goofy at the same time, and the humor in this and just like the silliness of this was just perfect to me. I really loved it. So now I'm back to Snow Globe. I was kind of like going in between these two today. I also thought I was going to get so much more reading done today than I have, which is, it is what it is. I forgot that I had some stuff on my to-do list today that ended up taking me hours. I don't know how I forgot about it, but I was like, oh my gosh, no plans, I can just read all day. And then I was like, wait, I have all this stuff I have to do. And it got to like 1 p.m. and that's really when I got to start reading. So alas, we are here and that's okay. It is now 7 p.m. I'm like showered, I've had dinner. I'm just settling in for the evening in my library room. I'm gonna chill out. I have about 100 pages left of Snow Globe, so I'm hoping I can finish this in the next hour or two, probably. I don't know how I feel about this one. There are parts that I really like and there are parts that I'm a bit like less interested in, or just that I find a bit more confusing. I feel like it just loses me at certain points. I feel like the pacing is a little bit off. We got to one point where we just skipped 3 months and I was just like, what? I don't know, it doesn't flow very nicely to me, but we're heading to like the biggest part of the story, I guess, at the moment, so I'm excited to see how that just concludes and what happens. And like I said, it's a duology, so I have no idea what the ending of this book is going to be, if it's going to be like all wrapped up nicely or if it's going to end on a cliffhanger. I guess we'll see. This is what our timer is looking like. I think I'm gonna give this one maybe like a 3.5. Like it was good and there were a lot of parts of it that I really enjoyed, but there were also some parts of it that I didn't, and so overall I just don't think it's a favorite for me, and I don't know if I want to continue reading it. Like I don't know, it just doesn't seem to be moving in a direction that I am that interested in. Like they obviously set up the next book at the end of this one, but I don't know if I care. I think that was the main issue with this book. It had some really promising things going on, but overall I just didn't really get attached. So it's hard to rate a book highly if you don't feel connected, but I can see some people really loving this. Yeah, definitely super unique, which I really loved. What are we gonna read next? I have 2 more books on my monthly TBR. One is The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson and the other is This Summer Will Be Different by Carly Fortune. I'm thinking maybe we read This Summer Will Be Different. We just read a fantasy and a dystopian, so maybe a romance will be a nice way to switch it up. I don't really know what to expect with this one. I've heard mixed things. I've seen some people give it a really high rating. Some people were a bit more indifferent. I have read one other Carly Fortune book and I think I gave it like 3 stars or 3.5. half, and that was Every Summer After, but I've heard better things about this one, so we'll see. I think it's like Best Friend's Brother or something along those lines. I probably won't do that much more reading tonight. Maybe I might be able to get another hour done. It is 7:54 right now. I really don't know what I'm gonna think about this one. Good morning, guys. I feel like this lighting is a little bit atrocious, so please bear with me for a second. I've just driven to a cafe just to have a little bit of a change of scenery today. We're starting with 14 hours and 22 minutes on the clock. That's what I got up to yesterday. We've done almost 10 hours. I'd love to halve this today. I don't know if that's possible. I'm not sure. We'll see what we get up to. I started reading This Summer Will Be Different last night, and I flew through it. I got up to page 115, chapter 15. Honestly, first impressions for the first 100 pages, so impressed. This is way better than I was expecting it to be. I know that sounds mean, but just based on my experience reading this author previously, I just didn't have high hopes, even though I had seen good ratings for this one. It's a really interesting premise. So basically 5 years ago, the main character accidentally slept with her best friend's brother because she didn't realize it was her best friend's brother, and her best friend only ever had created like 3 rules for her, which I'm not really sure why that's a thing. And one of those rules is don't fall in love with my brother. And when this happened 5 years ago and they realized who each other were, they were like, okay, we just won't ever tell the sister / the best friend what happened. So they've just been pretending that that never happened. But I think there's some more history in between that like 5-year period. My qualms with this one so far are 2 things. First of all, I don't love the whole like best friend's brother, or like anyone being like, I can't fall in love with you because you're their best friend, you're their brother, you're their whatever. Because I'm like, you would hope that your siblings end up with someone as good as your best friend. Like, I just never understand why that's like not a thing. Like, I get that it could make things awkward if you break up, but at the same time, I don't know, I just don't think it's that big of a deal. And I feel like obviously it's a trope, so it happens in a lot of books, but I'm like, why is this such a big deal? Why can the best friend not date the brother? In theory, the brother should be a really nice person, the best friend should be a really nice person, so why would you not want them to be together? If anything, it just means you get to hang out with your best friend more because they're over at your house a lot. I don't really know. And 2, the writing is really beautiful, but at times it feels like it's being beautiful for the sake of being beautiful. Like, it feels like when you're in high school and you have to like add a certain amount of similes and metaphors into your writing to be able to get a good grade. I hope that makes sense. Like, that's what it kind of feels like to me a little bit. I do like the writing, but yet sometimes I'm like, okay, you didn't need to describe this certain thing so like creatively. Like, I don't know, it's just a little bit too flowery in some parts where I don't think it's necessary, nor does it make like sense. I feel like sometimes it makes sense, or sometimes it's just the writer's style, but sometimes in this book it feels a little bit out of place for me. But it's not to the point where I'm like, oh, I'm annoyed by it. It's more just like, oh, it's a bit cringe sometimes, but it's chill. It's not a big deal at all. I'm assuming there's going to be a big theme of like growing older and getting scared of what you're leaving behind in your younger years based on what we've got from the book so far, because the main character's best friend is about to get married, and it seems like the best friend is feeling really nervous about entering this next stage of life and maybe life looking different when she gets married and gets older. I don't know, that whole theme I think is really interesting and something, I don't know, I think we have seen it in books before, like Happy Place and such, but I really like it, and I really like the discussion around it because I definitely feel that way. And I think it's just something we all deal with in our 20s. It's just this idea of like, wait, I have to let go of this part of my life in order to move on. But I'm hoping it'll be discussed in like a happy way and they'll come to a bit of a happier conclusion, but we'll see. I hope that makes sense because I feel like I didn't explain that well at all, but I'm intrigued. I feel like I'm going to fly through this, or continue to fly through this, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen. I will say the like scenes of like the tension between the main character and the love interest are fantastic, so hoping for more of that. I just got home. I think I was at the cafe for maybe like an hour and a half or something. I am now at page 213. I have just over 100 pages left, and I'm loving this. I'm loving it. I'm having so much fun. I don't even know what it is about it. It's not necessarily doing anything new. And I have seen people say, which I do agree with, Carly Fortune just seems to take good parts of other books and put them in her book. Like, it almost feels like she read a bunch of rom-coms and was like, oh, I like that part out of that book and that part out of that book. And she kind of puts them together to make her own. Like in Every Other Summer, it felt like this cross between The Summer I Turned Pretty and Love and Other Words. And I just feel like sometimes when authors do that, it really doesn't hit, because obviously we've already seen it done before, and often the first time you read that, it's just better because you don't know what's going to happen. It's not as predictable, but sometimes it does hit. For example, Powerless by Lauren Roberts. It is very predictable. It is a lot of tropes and a lot of things that we've seen 100 times before in other fantasy books, but she executed them perfectly and it made the book incredible. And I feel like in this book, like, yes, maybe I've seen the tropes before, but I feel like she's doing a really great job with them. So I am really enjoying it. That's not a criticism for me. I feel like, yeah, she's been doing it really well. I think one of the things I'm really loving about this book is that she has created such a vivid picture of what not only the setting looks like in this book, like I can imagine what this like town looks like and how it feels to be there, but also the characters. Like, it feels like we have a whole cast of characters that I understand really well, and I love that. I love it. I love the friends. I love the family. I love that we just feel like we know them, even though they're literally ink on paper. It's just so much more than the two main characters. So I think one of the main reasons I'm loving this is just because it feels like I am here in this setting, in this like small coastal town. Like, they just went to this shucking competition. I know nothing about what that even means. All I know is that it has something to do with opening oysters, I think. I don't know. I've never eaten an oyster in my life, nor do I intend to. But it just felt like I was there at this competition, this like small town vibe with all the best friends and the family, and I love it. I love the vibes I'm getting from this book. So, oh, another thing I want to mention is we found out why it matters so much to our main character's best friend Bridget that no one like dates her brother, falls in love with her brother, because there has been a situation in the past. Because like I said earlier, I was like, why is that a trope? I don't really understand, but the author has given me a reason to understand. So I appreciate that, because obviously that was a criticism to me before, and now it's not, because it makes sense. So I think I'm just gonna go sit outside and read maybe the rest of this, but I'm so excited to keep reading it because I am loving it. It's so good. I want cold February nights with him reading me books. I want July mornings in a blossoming garden. Felix will be my home, and I will be a place for him to return to. He'll be my oasis, and I'll be his. He'll save his best words for me, and I'll save mine for him. I just finished this book. This was so freaking good. So freaking good. I loved it, especially the ending. The last like 50 pages, phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. I think I'm gonna give it a 4.5. I'm shocked at how good that was. Time to put my trophy on the shelf. If you're a TBR cart girly, so like your TBR books are on a cart and then your shelf is reserved for your read books, how satisfying is it being able to put a new trophy on your shelf? Like, yeah, I read that. Luckily, we have some extra space on this shelf. Where should they go? Maybe here. Ooh, I don't know if I like that. I'm also missing some books because I've lent them out to friends. So if you notice a book missing that you think I have, it's probably just being borrowed. Okay, I like that a little bit better. I don't like it too much when all the colors are next to each other. Like, I didn't like how the orange was next to the orange. But now, what do we read next? There's always a lot to think about. First of all, let's consider our monthly TBR. The only thing I have left now is The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. I'm not doing that in a 24-hour readathon, sorry. Not happening. I don't think I have the energy for it right now. Some contenders for this 24-hour readathon, or at least like for my next book. We could do a silly, goofy little romance, but we just did a romance. we could do more of a fun little shorter fantasy book. I'm not picking up one that I have to like invest a lot of my energy into because I just don't feel like it right now, and that's my only reasoning. I should read Lessons in Chemistry because that's our book club book. I should read that. I don't want to. Part of me kind of wants to pick up Open Water. I just have to be like really in the mood for lit fic. Another contender, Ruthless Vows. I said that I need to read this ASAP Rocky. I think if I don't read it next, I'll read it very, very soon. Or I could do like a quick little YA thriller. That's like a different vibe. Oh my gosh, the text on this is huge. That's kind of a slay. What's this even about? Oh, it's called The Obsession, by the way. And I think it's like a stalker thriller, which sounds fascinating. I don't know. I'm gonna have a think about it. I do have some editing I need to do, so I might like take a break from reading, do some editing, and then a little bit later this afternoon come back, choose which of these I'm gonna pick up. So you know in the last clip how I was deciding between the 3 different books that I was gonna read next, and I was like, oh, I'll let you guys know. I did end up picking a book that was not one of those 3. I don't know why. I just had the urge to pick this up after I finished my editing, and so we're just going with it. I'm just mood reading, and I have made some decent progress. Granted, it is like almost 9 p.m. right now. What's our timer looking like? 9 hours and 11 minutes left. Still so many hours. At least we're in single digits. That's good news. But anyway, on to more important things. I started the Gilded Wolves, which has been on my TBR for a few months now. I can't remember why I picked it up. I ordered it for myself for my birthday when I did my birthday book haul. And usually when I do like my birthday book haul and I'm ordering a whole lot of books, it's like books that I've heard really good things about or someone recommended to me, and I like make this list on my phone over like months. And then when my birthday comes around, I order them all, or like I order a bunch of them. And this was one of those books. So I can't remember if it was like one person in particular that recommended it to me, or if I saw a TikTok about it, or if I just read the back of it in a bookstore and really liked it, which also is how books end up on that list. I don't remember. I wish I did, because I really went into this with just like 0 expectations. But this book is a fantasy book. I'm not sure, is it YA? I think it's YA. My guess would be that it is, simply because the characters are teenagers. It doesn't tell me on the back here, but my guess would be that it is. It's giving major Six of Crows vibes. If Six of Crows took place in Paris during is it the French Revolution? I actually know nothing about the French Revolution, so I don't want to say that. It takes place in 1889. Let's have a look actually. Hey Siri, when was the French Revolution? 1789. Okay, well that's a lie. I just lied to you. It's not during the French Revolution. What is this? Exposition Universelle. What? Oh! It's when the Eiffel Tower was built. That's crazy. The more you know. I feel like I know nothing about France. Anyway, it's got a historical kind of element to it, and it also has a really cool magic system. I don't think I can explain it very well. It's called like foraging, and I think it can take place in 2 different ways, either through objects or... Oh, look, I'm not gonna lie. It's gone a little bit over my head, some of it. So I've done a lot of reading today, and sometimes in 24-hour readathons things don't stick as well as they should up here. But what I do know is that I really like the characters, I really like the storyline, I'm having a lot of fun. Do I understand the nitty-gritty? Apparently not, but I'm having fun. And honestly, when I pick up a fantasy book, all I want is to have fun, be interested the whole time, and bonus points if there is found family, and bonus points if there's a romance, and bonus points if I like feel attached to the characters. And this is getting all the bonus points so far. I'm only 160 pages into it, but I do really love them. They're super likable, they're all very different, they all have different skills. When I say it's like Six of Crows-esque, it's giving teenagers all have special skills in different areas coming together to complete like a big mission, which like I know everyone compares like everything to Six of Crows, and I don't want this to just be like another one on that list, but I really do think it gives that kind of vibe. Just make it Paris in 1889 with a totally different magic system and totally different characters. So basically barely... Okay, I'm gonna stop yapping. I'm really enjoying this. I'm having a lot of fun. I'll probably update you guys tomorrow because it sounds like my brain has switched off for the evening. It's now the next day. I haven't done any reading so far, and it's almost midday. But last night I got to 8 hours 11 minutes on our timer. I don't think I'll be able to finish this today. Like, I could if I did nothing else, but just being realistic, it's not gonna happen. But hopefully we can get like a big bulk of it done. I ended up getting to, does anyone else just like find whatever they possibly can to use as a bookmark if they don't have one around? I definitely had one in my nightstand. I don't know why I didn't use it now that I'm thinking about it. I think I was just so tired that I wasn't really thinking very well. But I got up to part, how do you read Roman numerals? Is that part 4? IV. If the I is before, it means you take away from the V. I think this is part 4. Either way, I'm up to page 240. So we have about 140 pages left. So I should definitely finish this in the next couple of hours, next few hours. And I don't think I have anything to update you on about this. I'm still really enjoying it. It is so much fun, except that everything has just gone terribly wrong. Like, you know when you're like reading and everything is going so well and you're like, why are there still over 100 pages left of this book? Like, everything is going so well. The mission is being accomplished without, well, not without problems, but like they kind of got to the end and it was like, oh my gosh, like celebrating, and then suddenly, bam, something bad, terrible happens, everything falls apart. So that's what has currently happened, and I have no idea how they're gonna fix it, but we have 140 pages to figure it out. I think this is also part of a series though, so we'll see if we end on a cliffhanger, but I'm excited to keep reading this because yeah, it is just, it's so fun. I finished the Gilded Wolves. The ending, a little bit sad, I'm not gonna lie. But I was kinda, hate to say it, but kind of expecting something to happen like what happened. I wasn't like 100% sure what it would be, but there was just something brewing and I could feel it. I don't know if I would say it was a happy ending, but it definitely set up the next book so well, and I already went and downloaded the next book on Libby. I don't think I'm gonna read it straight away, but I'm excited to get to the next book at some point. That was so good. I'm shocked at how good these books are in this readathon. I feel like usually, I don't know, you have some good books, but there's usually a few duds, or like, you know, a few good, a few not so good, maybe like one really outstanding read. But we have had, I mean, what am I gonna rate this? What feels right to me? Maybe like a 4.25, because I really enjoyed it, but there were a few things where I was a little bit confused, but I also think that was mostly my own issue, because I think I was just a bit, I don't know, I just wasn't at optimum comprehension level yesterday when I started the book. So at the beginning, when I was trying to like learn who was who and what was happening and how the magic system worked and the world building, I don't think I was taking it all in, hence my confusion around the exposition universelle, because I was like, what was happening in 1889? It literally says on the back, first paragraph, Paris, 1889, the city is on the cusp of industry and power, and the exposition universelle has breathed new life into the streets and dredged up ancient secrets. Like, that is the whole setting of the book, and I was like, oh, what was going on in 1889? It literally tells you, babe. If you actually just read and actually remember what you have read, you actually would know the answer to that. Anyway, I think if I had read it with my optimum brain capacity, maybe I would have even given it like a 4.5 if I were to reread it. I could honestly like it even more, but I read a few reviews on Goodreads and a few people said, was I confused at some points? Yes. Was I comprehending every single thing? No. But did I have fun? Yes. I think there's just like so much going on with this, and there are so many different characters, kind of like Six of Crows, where it's like each character has almost their own mini storyline going on, but they're all obviously together and they interconnect. I don't know, there's just like a lot to keep track of, and I was tired yesterday, so I don't think I was able to pick up everything that I probably should have. So I honestly would love to do a reread of this at some point. But yeah, we've already had 2 4.5s in this video, 1 4.25 and 1 3.5. Is that what we've read? We still have 6 hours and 24 minutes left. What's next? I kind of feel like listening to something, if I'm being honest. I feel like it's just nice to switch things up. I want to read Ruthless Vows, but I'm not sure if I want to listen to that. Maybe I should listen to it. I could obviously go back and forth. Maybe I do start Ruthless Vows. Alright, fine, I'll do it. Onto the shelf she goes. You can go right there. It's time. Time for Ruthless Vows.
Under what, mate?
Ruthless Vows.
Ruthless Vows.
Obviously. What do you think their names are if you had to guess?
Jack
Mm.
and Susan.
Roman.
Close.
Iris. I feel like Jack is a good guess. What made you think Susan?
Well, I got Beth.
She does look like a bit of a Beth, I see that.
And I was like, no.
You know what? I can kind of see Susan too. But he looks like a Jack. I'm kind of scared to be starting this. The first book was 5 stars for me, and I've been putting this one off because I'm scared that it's not going to be 5 stars.
Have you heard that thing?
Yeah. I've heard some good things and some bad things. And then my last video, I was like, guys, I really need to read Ruthless Vows. Like, comment down below and like convince me. And so many people actually did. They were like, no, I read it and it was 5 stars. And I was like, fine, I'll read it. But they said, think more fantasy and less romance. So I'm trying to go in with the correct expectations. I'm officially over halfway through Ruthless Vows and I am loving it. I'm loving it. It feels so good to be back in this world with these characters. I am really glad that you guys kind of warned me, I guess, and told me don't go in expecting as much romance as there was in the first book. It's a lot of politics. It's a lot of like war discussion, and I think it has been really great going in with those expectations because you're definitely right. It's definitely not as romance heavy as the first book was, and as much as I am begging for the romance, and every time we get like a crumb of romance, I'm eating it up. I'm like savoring it. I am still enjoying the other aspects of this book. I think because I love the characters so deeply, I'm just happy to be with them. I'm just happy to go along with the story, whatever it may be. I will say I'm not as intrigued specifically with the gods situation right now. Like it's interesting. I just prefer reading about the characters. Obviously, all of those things are interwoven together. Like, you can't have these characters without the political background and without the situation at hand, which is, of course, the war between the gods. But I would just much rather read scenes focused on the characters compared to focused on the gods. So I don't think I'm enjoying it as much as the first book, but I am still thoroughly enjoying it. I think because, again, I became so connected to the characters in the first book that I'm just happy to be here with them in the second book. I do understand the criticism, and I also feel like it's kind of like slow, and a lot of it is quite like mundane, I guess, but I don't mind that. I really enjoy slower paced books as long as I like the characters, so that's not a problem for me. But again, I can understand why some people may not enjoy that as much. In saying that, I'm sure the second half there'll probably be some pretty crazy stuff going on if we're like looking at a war, you know? I just feel so good to be back in this world. Like, I just love these characters so much. And I can't believe that they're just going to be like done by the end of this. I also just love the writing so much. I haven't looked into Rebecca Ross's backlist. Let me know if you've read anything else by her. I don't even know how many other books she has. I don't know if she has like heaps of other books or if these are kind of her only books. I don't know. But if you've read other books by her, let me know what your thoughts are because I love her writing. It's just so beautiful. I feel like I've probably said this before, potentially even in this video. I feel like some writing just like clicks with your brain and your brain is just like, like this is good soup, you know? And then some writing just doesn't. And sometimes I can read a book and not care about the writing at all. I would say a lot of the time I do not care about the writing really at all. There are just some times when I pick up a book and I'm just like, this just feels nice to my brain. Like Jessa Hastings for me, Emily Henry for me, Abby Jimenez. I don't know, it flows so nicely to my brain and I can just sit and just binge and not get distracted and just be so consumed by the book. And I love that. Our timer is at 2.5 hours. It is 8:24 p.m. right now. I'm obviously not going to finish. Well, obviously I shouldn't say that. I do not stay up late. So I will not be reading for another 2.5 hours, but I will be reading for as long as I can keep my eyes open. My guess will be an hour. Yeah, probably an hour or so. Oh, I'm really scared about what's gonna happen at the end. I can't believe I put this off for so long. You guys were so right. You guys were so right. You were all like, Rachel, you need to read it right now. And I was just like, no. And then you were like, please, Rachel, I'm begging you. And I'm just like, maybe later. And then you were like, Rachel, please, you need to read this right now. Otherwise, we'll be mean to you. And I was like, fine, I'll read it. And now I'm like, wow, this is so good. Why didn't you guys convince me to read it earlier? And you were like, Rachel, shut up. I just got out of bed. It is 6:30. I have just under an hour left on the timer. Today's random bookmark that I found last night right before I was trying to fall asleep is a granny square. So slay granny square. And I have under 100 pages left of this book. I don't think I'm going to finish it in this last hour because I think it usually takes me longer than an hour to read 100 pages. But I'm so intrigued to know what's going to happen, and I'm so determined to finish this readathon this morning. I literally opened my eyes and the first thing I thought was, let's finish the readathon. I have a lot of stuff to do today and I want to finish this first. Oh, I love this book so much. I do. Let's collect our trophies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah! A very successful 24-hour readathon. We managed to get through 5 books, which is so good. 5 books that were on my physical TBR at the beginning of this week and no longer are. Did it take me 5 days to get through a 24-hour readathon? Yes, it did. But I was thinking about it and I was like, a 24-hour readathon over 5 days averages out to like almost 5 hours a day, and I would not normally read for 5 hours a day. Let's do a quick fire recap for these books. We started out with Tress of the Emerald Sea. Loved this. Such a silly, goofy time. 4.5 stars. Then we had Snow Globe, probably my least favorite read from this video, but still enjoyable. So like, we were very successful during this readathon in terms of enjoyment levels. Like, I had so much fun reading all these books. But yeah, this one was just, I think, trying to do too much in too little time, but great concept. Then we had This Summer Will Be Different. This was so much better than I was expecting it to be. I really enjoyed it. 4.5. Then we had The Gilded Wolves, another one that I just didn't have like the highest expectations for, but it blew me away. I had so much fun with this one. Very much like Six of Crows vibes. 4.25. And lastly, we finally got Ruthless Vows off the physical TBR. This was such an incredible reading experience. I absolutely adored it. I'm so glad you guys told me to go in with the expectations of less romance, more politics, or like more fantasy, because that's exactly what it was. And I think I went in with the right expectations because of you guys. I just love the writing in both the first book and the second book. I do think the first book is still my favorite, but I did really enjoy this. I think the first book is like a 6-star read for me, but I think this one, I don't know, it's either 4.5 stars or 5. I haven't decided yet. Maybe 4.5. I feel like I shouldn't be hesitating if it's a 5-star read, but still fantastic, and I'm so glad that I finally read it. I love these characters so much. Oh my gosh, we almost have like a rainbow going on here. Like 2 reds, but that's so fun. But I hope you guys enjoyed hanging out with me during this 24-hour readathon. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in my next video very soon. Goodbye.